Can you hear me?
Good. You are what, number 2 on there? Is that what it says? I think?
GR3, channel 2.
Okay, so let's just say something. Keep talking. Yes. Thank
Ladies
you.
and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome you to the Toby Ross experience.
That's right. That's a part of it. This is a good part of it. All right, I think you're good.
I feel like when you're behind somebody, you should be cheering. Like, we're having
I mean,
fun.
yeah, if we want to backtrack of cheering, that would be.
Oh yeah, we can, put the phones up to the.
Uh-huh.
Oh, I don't like Texas, so I
Tonight.
can cheer for CSU.
All right, so Cynthia, let's just test yours real quick and then.
Turn it on.
Yeah, so the little button.
There you go.
Testing, 1, 2, 3.
So are you what, are you 4 on there?
I'm
So
number
CH4?
5. Wait, CH4, yes.
Yeah, okay, so, well, sit how you normally would though, so we can make sure that it's.
Hold on, I gotta get my phone.
And Toby, we keep them on?
What?
Keep them on the whole time, or just where?
It's whatever you want to do. Yeah, when you're talking.
All right.
All right, so it's gonna be, yeah, I'd move it a
Little
little-
down a little, is that
I'd
better?
probably move it a little closer. This is the whole.
You got it.
Susie, can you hear me?
Alex,
Alex, give a wave.
I think we're good for that. So, okay. I'm gonna leave this one off.
I'm going to go ahead and start with the announcements, okay? Because it is 6 o'clock.
Yep.
For those watching tonight's meeting virtually, the meeting is available to live stream via the Park District website. All information about Park District meetings can be found at winpark.org under the Park District Info tab by selecting Board Meetings and Videos. Public comment is accepted in person. A link to the video will be posted immediately following this evening's meeting. To improve the sound while listening to the meeting, please turn up the volume on your computer and turn up the volume on the website. The meeting packet for tonight's meeting is located on the website. For those attending tonight's meeting, the emergency exits from the room are the door behind you or through the foyer. To improve the quality of sound, there is a boom microphone directed towards the commissioners. The microphone will likely pick up additional audience noise and sidebar conversations. If you are predisposed not to hear well, please move forward to a front row seat. This is a business meeting and not a sporting event. The board asks for your cooperation to maintain decorum. There is no clapping or booing. Please be considerate and refrain from interrupting board members and other speakers. We are a community coming together to discuss difficult issues in a civil and respectful fashion. May I have a calling to order the March 21st, 2024 regular board meeting. Denise, may I have a roll call?
Commissioner Hemmings?
Here.
Commissioner James?
Here.
Commissioner Rack?
Here.
Commissioner Ruth?
Present.
Commissioner Tyson?
Here.
Commissioner Lesson?
Here.
Commissioner Kodo?
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Are there any requests for changes or additions to the agenda? May I have a motion to approve the March 21st agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Public comment. We thank Toby Ross for our new microphone setup. Please adjust your microphone, but please don't touch the control panel on the podium. This is your opportunity to address the board on any issue. When called upon, please come to the center position in front of the commissioners and stand at the podium. Speak loudly or into the microphone, state your name for the record, and speak directly to the board. Per the Winnetka Park District's policy manual, all comments must be kept to 3 minutes. This is not a question and answer forum, so please do not expect an immediate response. If you prefer to share your comments in writing this evening, you may do so by leaving your comments with a member of Park District staff. Who would like to speak? Ted.
I think I may be the only one. Hi. I really don't have much to say. Hi, Ted Winchenko. I do have to go get medicine for my dog who got injured this afternoon, but I decided to stop by because I wanted to mention a couple things. First, I appreciate you getting rid of the extraneous stuff in the little preamble. I point out that the policy actually allows people to speak for longer than 3 minutes with the approval of the president of the board. And like clearly the issues of decorum and timing in a day when there's only one person speaking, would suggest that maybe going over would be okay. But I probably won't even go over, I didn't start my timer. So I primarily came because I am glad-ish that, I know that we've become much more rules kind of society, and that's fine. And I see the changes to the policy about adding items, that's fine too. I was a little concerned with the idea of like a majority of people needing to, add an item to the agenda, which of course would mean that a majority would have to, basically a vote before the item could be discussed, and that's not in your revision, so that's good. I would suggest, since we are trying to define everything, that it might be a good idea to add some language about what exactly is meant by 2 board members may add an item to the agenda 48 hours before the meeting. Exactly what does that mean? Because I can see that vagueness being utilized to either keep or allow certain items onto the agenda based on other decisions. So I think you guys should add like something specific there, but I'm glad that it's not requiring a supermajority to discuss something. That, like even the Supreme Court only requires 4 justices to agree to hear a case, not 5. So, okay, that was it. That's really all I came for. All right.
Thank you very much, Ted. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Susie, come on up.
Oh, there's a second first.
Try out the new system.
Thanks, Ted.
I will, and I'm not going to touch anything. I promise. Hands behind my back. Susie Schreiber, Winnetka Park District resident. A huge kudo from every resident of the Winnetka Park District and anyone else who wants to listen to this meeting via Zoom or when you are in various seating places in this room. Thank you. We are just ever so grateful. 2, last meeting, after the meeting, I went and I did switch the, turn the eagle on the flag if you're going to pledge of allegiance. I don't think it's appropriate to have the eagle facing backwards. The eagle is supposed to be facing forwards for flag etiquette. And some of you may know that I have a bit of history in flag etiquette. But anyway, it may be a weight thing that it's pulling back, but I think it's something we can adjust either from the top or the bottom. Thank you, Cynthia. And 3, just because it's now daylight savings time, and when you keep that nicely framed picture of the recreational field open with the shades, it's backlighting the 2 of you who are sitting right in front of it. So you sort of show up as outlines to some of us with lesser vision. So if we could pull that. And then the last thing, I would like to thank the executive director for a very, very well done set of weekly updates and adding that to your packet. I think it's extremely important. Thank you very much. And one last comment, you might want to consider putting public comments towards the end of your meeting. I find it very helpful that way, because then anyone hearing the meeting can make a comment at the end, and anybody hurrying in from the train or getting a kid to wherever the kid needs to be gotten to comes in and can thoughtfully make a suggestion. So thank you and have a great meeting.
Great. Thank you, Susie. Don, any comments? Excellent. Sir, any comments?
Yeah, thanks. Bob Mucci, lived here about 30 years. Originally came down here because I wanted to thank the 3 commissioners, Root, Rep, and the other one that voted in that vote you had on your favorite topic, Mr. Ishbia. I think you had a vote and it was 4-3, is that correct? And I wanted to thank the 3 commissioners because, to me, they were diligent and open-minded, showed that they knew the Winnetka Park District manual, the policy, and we're conversant in some of the caucus rules and regulations. I served on the candidates committee. And if you go back to early 1900s, late 1800s, when they started this system, they had a candidates committee, a slating committee to review candidates because they wanted people that would follow the system that they had laid down. And the purpose of the slating committee was to weed out those candidates that weren't here for a sole public service motivation. Nepotism, patronage, looking for to do business, those types of people they didn't want. They wanted people that would follow the system, and in doing so, they'd be representing most of the people. And in the policy manual, you'll see that the principle repeated over and over again, that it's the whole of the community that should be guiding all of your decisions. And it's kind of a hard concept for people to understand, because you can have a feeling towards some object, but your job requires you to rule against that feeling because you're bound to uphold the views of the people. And a lot of people have a hard time with that. And maybe some of, especially in the jury system, if you ever do a jury trial, you can have 12 people think that the guy's guilty, but they have to vote not guilty if it hasn't been proven beyond a reasonable doubt. It's hard to get people to act differently than the way they think. But here, we're prescribed a system that dictates that you've got to think, you've got to act differently than the way you may think. I was a political science major, so I'm kind of an idealist. When I moved out here, I saw the system and I couldn't believe it. And I talked to other people and I kind of boasted about it. We actually have a government that does what the people want. I mean, you don't see that in Chicago or zillions of other places. And so that's why I came down here. I wanted to publicly thank these 3 commissioners because you've got to set a role model for the young people in this community, because we're going to need people to go into public service. And public service, by definition, means it's selfless. There's no selfish motivation here. And you put in a lot of time, and it's hard to find people that are going to put in all this time and effort and get nothing out of it personally. And that's what's required, and that's what people demand, and that's what they expect. And that's what we're supposed to keep out of the system. It's supposed to be strictly reflect the view of the community. That's what a democracy is.
Sir, please wrap up your comments.
Yeah, sure. Someone else made reference to the policy manual in the 3 minutes. Well, there's a lot of rules in there, and we need to follow all of them. One of them that's not been followed is the fact that it mentions that people can ask questions. In a free and democratic society, you want to foster free dialogue. The only way you get the truth is if you have some kind of adversarial cross-examination. Through the fires of discussion, do you get to the truth? And when we have people here that want to ask questions and they're told they can't ask questions, it's totally contrary to what it says in the policy. I'm not the first one to say this, and I've said it a bunch of times.
Please wrap up your comments, sir.
Okay? All right? And that's the amazing thing about our system here, because it's governed by the caucus, who represents all the wards in the community. We have rules that if people don't follow them, if they don't live up to their obligations and duties, they can be recalled. And
Thank you for your comments, sir.
yeah, I understand that. What you've got to feel, though, is you make decisions regarding millions of dollars of our money, and then we put you in these chairs, and then you tell us we got 3 minutes.
Thank you for your comments.
Right. All I ask is that you follow all the rules as well. Let people ask questions like it says. Don't ignore it. Don't stick your head in the sand. It's been brought up many, many, many times. Why you won't deal with it, I don't know.
Thank you for your comments, sir.
Okay?
Your time limit is up.
Okay?
Thank you.
Yeah. Because I got to tell you one last thing. You say it over and over again, and it becomes insanity. Because people say it all the time, and they expect a different outcome. And when you say it to you, there's no different outcome. Say it all. How many times does it have to be said?
Thank you. Any other public comment? Moving on to item number 3, the consent agenda. Without objection or request for removal of any specific item from the consent agenda for individual consideration, we will act on the following items with a single vote. Item 3.1, regular meeting minutes, February 22, 2024. Item 3.2, closed session minutes, February 22, 2024. Item 3.3, Committee of the Whole meeting minutes, March 7th, 2024. Item 3.4, January 2024 financials. Item 3.5, vouchers in the amount of $465,875. Item 3.6, joint agreement for farmers market at Station Park. Item 3.7, Freedom of Information Act rules and regulation, draft policy update. Does anyone wish to have any item removed from the consent agenda?
Madam Chair, I ask that the minutes from March 7th be removed for just a brief discussion and a minor change.
That's item 3.3.
It is 3.3, yes.
May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Roll call?
Commissioner Hemmings,
Yes.
Commissioner James,
Yes.
Commissioner Rapp,
Yes.
Commissioner Root,
Yes.
Commissioner Tyson,
Yes.
Commissioner Lesson,
Yes.
Commissioner Koto.
Yes.
That motion passes.
Excellent. May I have a motion to consider item 3.3, Committee of the Whole meeting minutes, March 7th, 2024?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Discussion?
In reading, I was on the second page, and the continuation of the topic about the walkway for ADA compliance. And there is a comment it's the penultimate line of that continued paragraph, that there was consensus regarding this change. And I don't really feel that there was board consensus on the actual redesign. I think there were compliments that it was less invasive than the original design. But my request is that the language regarding consensus be removed, and that we continue saying that the commissioners commented, asked questions, and instructed staff to move forward with the March 18th permit submission date. So my issue is consensus.
I'd like to go around the room and ask people if they felt there was consensus on that issue, if that's an accurate reflection, or if it needs to be altered. James?
I'm happy removing reference to consensus if Commissioner Root has an issue with it.
Cynthia?
I think it should be removed.
I wasn't here, no comment.
I think there was consensus.
I would not determine it to be consensus.
Okay, fair enough. Consensus will be removed.
Thank you.
May I have a motion to approve the Committee of the Whole meeting minutes, March 7th, 2024, as amended?
Could we clarify?
Removing the comments around consensus. Do you want to specify the
So
comments?
we would remove the words that say, and there was a consensus. That would be removed.
I think you're removing, and there was consensus regarding the change and direction to move forward targeting. I just say commissioners commented, asked questions, and instructed staff with the goal of targeting March 18th for permit submission. And do we need to further clarify that we are talking about permit submission for Centennial only? Because that's what I recalled.
If the board would like to clarify that in the minutes, that's fine. It is the title of the item, so it's implied that it would be Centennial, but that's no problem to add it if needed.
So you have a line that you're striking, and it's clear that it's Centennial.
Correct.
Okay.
Fine. Thank you.
Okay. May I have a motion to approve the committee?
You already have a motion.
Excellent, okay.
Commissioner Root and Commissioner Tyson, second.
Perfect. Roll call vote.
Commissioner James,
Abstain.
Commissioner Rapp,
Yes.
Commissioner Root,
Yes.
Commissioner Tyson,
Yes.
Commissioner Lesson,
Yes.
Commissioner Hemmings,
Yes.
and Commissioner Koto.
Yes.
That motion passes.
Moving on to item number 4, unfinished business, the Winnetka Music Festival involvement and contribution request. Shannon?
I'm going to keep stealing the microphone over here. Okay, so I will go ahead and read the memo. The annual Winnetka Music Festival, organized by the company Val's List, in its 8th year in downtown Winnetka and takes place, unfortunately, I had the dates wrong in here, so it is actually the 14th and 15th, not the 15th and 16th. The Park District has previously provided support for this event with a $10,000 donation, equipment, and staff support in 2023. The organizers of the Winnetka Music Festival approached the Park District and presented to the Park Board on February 22nd, 2024 regarding their request for donation. Discussion: Park District would provide 5 gas-powered golf carts, 3 gas-powered golf utility carts, 1 portable lighting tower, and 5 picnic tables. Additionally, the Park District would provide support for use of the Park District forklift by a Park District employee to move water barrels, pre- and post-event transportation of the golf carts and golf utility carts, pre- and post-event transportation of the portable lighting tower, signage placed at park locations for event promotion, and pre- and post-event transportation of picnic tables. The event organizers have also requested a financial contribution of $10,000. In exchange for this sponsorship request, the Park District is requesting that the Park District is acknowledged as a sponsor on press releases, flyers, banners, and other collateral promoting the event. There's an opportunity for the Park District to set up a tent or area at the event to promote the Park District, and the Park District is to receive mentions and promotions on the event's website, social media channels, and email newsletters. And the Park District is to receive complimentary tickets or discounted ticket packages for the benefit of the Park District fundraisers or giveaways. Fiscal impact: there's an impact of $10,000 that is available in recreation programming fees, special events, account noted in the memo, to provide as sponsorship to the Winnetka Music Festival. In-kind services allocation would be approximately $4,125 to cover equipment use, value, and 30 hours of staff time to meet the requirements of the agreement. There are some adjustments in the agreement that was noted by Val's List, where in section, in section B1B1, the pallet change, the pallet number would change from 20 to 30 as far as the pallet of water barrels. And then in C14, adding general admission to the language as far as the tickets that would be received for giveaway. And with that, I'll answer any questions, and then I believe Mr. Myers is here to answer any questions.
Any questions for Scott Myers or Shannon? Or post up? Okay, perfect.
I have a question.
Sure.
For Mr. Myers, under the agreement, you're obligated to maintain certain insurance. What is the actual number with respect to the insurance that you have?
So we provide a $4 million general liability insurance. There's also a $1 million liquor liability, where the Park District is one of the co-insured.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, seeing no further questions, may I have a motion to amend section B1 and section C1, section B1B1 and section C1-4 of the sponsorship agreement as presented, and subsequently approve the sponsorship agreement between the Winnetka Park District and Val's List LLC.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Any additional discussion? Perfect. That's a roll call.
Commissioner Rapp?
Yes.
Commissioner Root?
Yes.
Commissioner Tyson?
Yes.
Commissioner Lesson?
Yes.
Commissioner Hemmings?
Yes.
Commissioner James?
Yes.
Commissioner Koto?
Yes.
That motion passes.
Excellent.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Item 4.2, Kemper Sports Update for Winnetka Golf Club and Pricing Strategy. This is Shannon and the Kemper team, Vince Suarez and Kemper Sports.
The microphone got turned off, so just turn the microphone back on.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
great to see the kids out on the fields again. The sun is up later. It's wonderful. Won't be long before we hit golf season here.
Hopefully the grass is growing.
Not quite yet. The soil temperatures are a little low still.
Yeah.
So give it a month or two.
Do you want the actual presentation?
Yeah.
or-
Yeah,
Okay,
presentation.
Yeah.
apologize.
I think that's the last page.
So from an agronomy perspective, good winter for
Yeah, it was
golf
great.
course?
Yeah, it was great winter. I mean, certainly would have enjoyed a little bit more snow cover,
Yeah.
but this will open up to some early, hopefully some early growing. So it would be great. It's been great for the golf courses that are able to open right now. So we've had record February at a lot of facilities, and March has been pretty strong as well. So those that are open for play. But I brought with me today Vince Juarez. Great to see everybody. Thank you for having us, Kemper Sports. I brought with me Andrew Garner, our Director of Agronomy, and Josh Halloran. Josh is with our Revenue Department. We've had the opportunity to start going through some pricing strategies. I know we've had some initial discussions, but want to start off here turning it over to Andrew to talk a little bit about the golf course activity, the construction projects that are going on still, some environmental sustainability project that Andrew's been working on. So I'm going to turn it over to Andrew.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for having me. Again, my name is Andrew. Welcome, Shannon.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you from afar. So just to kind of expand on Vince's comment on golf courses opening. The golf course is dry. We could have golf as well out here if and when we open for next year. The cart path continues, cart paths, gets the golf carts out, gets the golfers out there. And then also the fairways are dry. So huge improvement to where we were a year ago and years in advance, 100 years, I should say. I'm pleased to provide an overview of the Winnetka Golf Club's golf course and grounds, highlighting the latest developments, on-course activities, environmental initiatives, and outreach efforts undertaken to enhance the culture and sustainability of the facility. On course, we're gearing up for the cultural and plant health care applications contingent upon weather conditions. A few weeks ago, we saw Mother Nature kind of break. It was nice out. We were able to get out, do some things, mow some grass on greens and tees, make a couple applications to kind of get ahead of an early season, as we're kind of forecasting at this point, for all intents and purposes. We completed our in-house tree work. I know I continually keep talking about the tree work, but we have addressed almost every tree on the property and brought everything up to 12 foot. So it gives us clearance for all the equipment, all the carts, able to go in and out and have access, and visibility, huge visibility, really exceeds, really looks good out there. Additionally, the Winnetka Men's Club, now in their 11th year of volunteering, 4 times this year already, has been instrumental in educating and assisting with the removal of buckthorn and the undergrowth. So I'm very happy their efforts and helping us out, and also spreading the word of the buckthorn and invasive plants that we're trying to remove and keep off the property. In terms of improvements, the stair revitalization project, replacing timbers, repairing timbers, is well underway right now. We have finished the timber section on number 2T. We just have a couple things to button up tomorrow morning, but we have replaced that over the course of the last week or so. So we'll continue to move forward with making a few other major repairs, and then after that, part two will be putting new material on top to kind of protect it and not make it a hazard. So we're still waiting on that approval to move forward. Looking ahead, the driving range netting has been reinstalled and will be opening in the near future. I would say probably as early as late next week. Just want to get the temperatures up a little bit, so it makes sense for all parties to have extra work labor out here. The replacement of the golf cart storage roof and roof line is on the schedule and should be coming up here very soon. The new bridge on hole number 2 has been removed, and again, waiting on a date to have that replaced and installed. So moving forward on some big projects to kind of continue to maintain and upgrade the facilities. I want to commend the Winnetka Park District for their ongoing commitment to environmental sustainability, with Kemper Sports actively involved in their continued success. This dedication is exemplified by the participation in our programs like the Green to a T, by achieving 4 certifications ranging from level 1 to level 2 IPM. We have demonstrated our dedication to upholding and implementing eco-friendly practices and integrated pest management programs. Our involvement in the Audubon Sanctuary Cooperative Program is another testament to our stewardship efforts. Site assessment, environmental planning, case studies, educational outreach are all underway. We've actively engaged in developing relationships and programs to provide support to this program. The website has been updated to reflect previous outreach programs completed by Eagle Scouts. These exhibits include bat, amphibians, reptiles, and a tree guide. They were previously displayed and distributed in pamphlet form, or they were housed in a display on holes 10 and 17. We are still going to have those displays, and we're going to provide QR codes that will be readily available, and will give you direct access to our website and displaying these documents. I believe this is a great upgrade to what we've previously done, and it allows us better exposure and outreach. Excitingly, we'll have new drone footage available soon. He was out here yesterday and shot the course. We should have it early next week. All I got.
There's a question, Andrew.
Yes, sir.
So, tree removal, tree reshaping is like a huge strategic priority for golf courses throughout the country and the world. Does Kemper use in-house teams to provide that work, or do you outsource it to local or those organizations that are aligned strategically with golf course work?
You have any other? You got it.
So,
And just for background, so like golf courses around the country, they do like national searches for people to come out and remove trees. Like, it's a big deal.
And you had an arborist, take on your initial design for the golf course, and those were removed. We are able to trim up to 12 foot, and in doing so,
Great.
And then we've also engaged third-party arborists to do some of our bigger work that's over 12 feet, or anything that is just a little bit outside of our scope. Just more or less bigger tree removal, or just the grand scope. We saw back last year, there was a section of about 80 trees that we limbed up 12 foot, and due to construction restrictions and like trying to get the work done so they can move forward, we outsourced that work to the third party.
Great. And as you've witnessed and others have seen, our course was horrifically overgrown prior to engagement. So that work sounds very promising. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I'm excited for the Autobahn work and the environmental sustainability work that Andrew's done. He's certainly involved a lot of the local groups here, as he said, the scouts, the schools. He's involved some of the locals and some of the men's club as well to help undertake some of the projects. So kudos to Andrew and his team for all the care and dedication that they put into the environmental sustainability of the club. So as we get ready to open in fall of, late summer, early fall of 24 here, we've turned our focus on to really gearing up for that opening and talking about pricing structures, talking about opening plans for opening events. Not quite ready to announce or to give suggestions yet as to when we might open, but we are on track. I'll say that. We are on track. We certainly need the temperatures to warm up. We need continued growth of the turf, but thanks to Andrew, his team, Dave Groley, who's not with us tonight, the golf course is on schedule. We're happy to report that. From a pricing standpoint, the pricing has changed over the course of the last 5-6 years in the golf industry, like it has everywhere. We are suggesting that we move to a dynamic pricing model, much like you would see with your airlines or your hotel chains, and dynamic pricing moving based on demand, based on past historical financials, based on current historical financials, based on competition, and of course based on weather. What we've done here is shown a little bit of a ceiling or a floor and a ceiling pricing of what we're suggesting on a Monday. We've broken it down to Monday through Thursday on a floor rate or a rack rate, and Monday through Thursday on a ceiling rate, along with Friday through Sunday, both floor rate and ceiling rate. We are suggesting that we do have a couple segments of what we call static pricing that doesn't change, mainly for your junior sector, your twilight sector, and some of your 9-hole sectors. But regular play, senior play during the week would all be dynamically priced. But I think the most important thing here, as we start talking about pricing, is that we feel very strongly that the residents should receive a discount for the golf clubs. You will see with any pricing structure that we put forth on the dynamic side, you will see a resident discount for pricing. So when the residents make tee times online, when they come into the golf shop, they will certainly be able to receive that discounted pricing when they come in and check in, based on being Winnetka residents. And I believe there's a couple of sections that maybe are bordering the area, those folks that would also certainly receive discounts that are taxpayers. So I think most of everybody has had a chance to see this. I don't want to necessarily dive into some of the details. We would certainly have a cart fee as well, both 9 and 18-hole cart fee. We have run the comparisons from the local competition to make sure that the pricing structure is in line with the local competition, to make sure that there's nothing out of whack from a golf course to golf course standpoint. I'm going to pause right here and just maybe take a couple questions if anybody has any questions on dynamic pricing before I move on to the financials.
I just want to say thanks for taking the time to meet with all of the commissioners, 2-on-1, because we've been able to get a lot of assurances with regard to the carve-outs, the groups that you've identified.
My pleasure. My pleasure. So moving on to the financials. Another strong month. I mean, if you can have a strong month by coming in the negative, we've said that a couple times now, but we did achieve budget. We had revenues of just over 27,000 in February versus a budget of 10,000. Year-to-date revenues are standing at 50,000 compared to a budget of 17. For the month of February, we finished with an EBITDA of negative 30,000 versus a budget of negative 98,000. So we're certainly favorable to budget year-to-date. On the net income side, year-to-date net income of negative 97,000 compared to a budget of negative 195. So about 100,000 favorable to budget year-to-date. I think to call out, Andrew and his team, grounds department expenses were 20,000 favorable to budget in February. Reductions in fertilizer, chemicals, seed, we didn't put anything down in February. And the big one is water. I think, when the budget was established, we had talked a lot about water. We really didn't know what the water rates were going to come in or the usage, but certainly favorable to budget on the water line item. And hopefully we'll continue to see that month after month. The range revenue was on budget. Golf revenue was 22,000 and change compared to a budget of 5,000. That was mostly due to Discover Golf and the lesson revenue on that side, with a lesson expense of 44,000 on that side. G&A deferred. We are deferring some repair and maintenance on the deferred expenses on the building, so we'll have some expenses coming up. But net, we're about 100,000 favorable. So another great month. I don't see anything in March that would change. We've had no unanticipated expenses in March, and we should be bringing on our general manager here when we get into mid-April. We're almost ready to bring him on board. We're just finishing some things up at his facility right now. So, and I'll pause and answer any questions. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Very excited to hear about the Audubon initiative
Yeah.
coming together. Just a quick question. Are you observing that people are sufficiently staying off the golf course? Because I know we've had a lot of discussion about that previously, and I just want to make sure that Shannon has it on radar. Like, is that looking okay, or are you seeing interlopers?
Yeah, I think it's going to kind of creep up to be a little bit of a problem as we get into the warmer weather. Right now we're still okay. There's the fencing that's around, which is great. I'm going to defer that to maybe next month after the weather really turns, because I think that's when we're going to see people starting to go out. Because the golf course, while the golf course looks like it's ready to play, it's really not. We need to get some growth. Yes, sir.
I have a question regarding the irrigation system. Is it fully intact now, ready to be enlivened?
I'm going to defer that one to Andrew.
Yes, it's still winterized, but upon starting it back up,
When do you plan to start up?
at looking now, I'm mid-April.
Mid-April.
Before May 1. Last year, May 1, we were already sitting, mid-80s. And so.
So I know there were great improvements to the irrigation system, especially on the supply utilizing stormwater for irrigation purposes. Is everything functioning as intended and desired?
The pump stations that are, in this case, downstream, that are pumping upstream into the culverts and basically into the irrigation pond on number 9 are all functional by the village. The communication is cellular based. When we demand water, we reach out to the village, they turn on the pumps, and we can take additional water from where the floodplain is to the south, basically the Duke Childs Field Basin. We can pump that into our our pond system on the south watershed by 18. And then from there, Andrew has controls at the pump station in number 10, where he can pump over into the actual irrigation pond. So that is all operational.
Terrific, thank you.
You're welcome.
What is the amount of deferred repair maintenance?
I'm sorry?
What's the amount of deferred repair maintenance?
Well, there's about 15,000 in the budget that we haven't used on clubhouse maintenance. Not to say that we're going to use all of that money, but we're certainly looking at what improvements can happen inside the clubhouse to improve it prior to guests coming back in.
Okay. Any additional
Thank you, everybody.
questions? Thank you, Vince. May I have a motion to adopt the recommendations of Kemper Sports for pricing strategy at the Winnetka Golf Club?
So moved. Second.
Excellent. All in favor? This is a voice vote.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Perfect, that passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Item number 4.3, Elder and Centennial Intergovernmental Agreement with Village of Winnetka. That's Shannon and Adam.
Okay. Again, I'll go ahead and read the memo. So background, as staff progressed on the Elder Lane and Centennial projects, the next step is to submit applications for special use permits to the Village of Winnetka. A meeting was scheduled with representatives of the village to discuss stormwater on March 4th. The board-assigned committee included President Cotto and Commissioner Lesson. Staff of Executive Director Nozal and Village Manager Bayhan were also in attendance. In that meeting, the idea of an intergovernmental agreement was discussed regarding the stormwater component of the project to streamline the Elder Lane and Centennial project permitting process. Representatives from the Village Council suggested an IGA to include the stormwater portion of the project to streamline the special use permit process through the village. Going through the standard permit process, both park projects are subject to review by the Design Review Board, Zoning Board of Appeals, and Plan Commission in addition to the Village Council. If the Village and Park District execute an IGA, the permit process through the village is only subject to review and approval by the Village Council. This process is authorized by Chapter 17.76 of the Winnetka Village Code. The representative from the village included President Rentz and Trustee Apatoff. It was discussed that the village did want to relocate the stormwater outfall structures at Elder Lane, however, are interested in getting more information from a future study on stormwater in the area to determine the needs of the village. The Park Board discussed the option at the March 7th, 2024 Committee of the Whole meeting in order to gain more information on the process. Discussion. The Committee for the Park District reached out to the Committee for the Village to ascertain if the village would consider an IGA for only the stormwater portion of the Elder Lane project. The village continues to indicate they were only interested in an IGA for the entire Elder Lane and Centennial Beach project as a whole. Moreover, the village expressed that the Park District bring the entire plan through the zoning process at the same time, rather than proceeding separately with each application. It was also noted, however, in the March 12, 2024 Village Council study session by Village Council that applicants are allowed to submit separate applications for separate parcels. As it relates to Elder Lane and the study to be completed by the village, a date of completion is unknown. However, the information needed to move forward with stormwater improvements was promised by June 2024, as stated by President Rentz in the March 12, 2024 Village Council study session. In that same meeting, Village Manager Bayhan indicated that an IGA for stormwater would still need to occur regardless of the path forward. Fiscal impact is unknown, and we'll ask the board to discuss the options.
I think, Adam, you have some comments in addition? No? Okay. All right. Any other questions or comments? We have a draft motion for a stormwater at Elder Lane IGA that we might want to consider. But go ahead.
Anything else from you?
No?
First of all, I wasn't here for the March 7th meeting, so I wasn't part of that discussion. But I am pleased that we're going through the full permit process because I think it will give us an opportunity to explain the plans in greater detail to the community and be fully transparent, and hopefully that will help allay some fears and answer questions about the planned approach. With respect to the stormwater, this subject matter has been discussed at great length between both the village and the Park District. The village conducted a comprehensive study back in 2012. I should say comprehensive. They conducted a study in 2012 that showed that the Elder Lane stormwater discharge The area tributary to that is in excess of 300 acres. It expands, including parts west of Green Bay Road. And the three areas of concern where they experience flooding are the Winnetka Avenue underpass near New Trier, Willow Road pedestrian underpass, and Fuller Lane. And I understand that the village is out for RFP to conduct a new study to assess southeast Winnetka stormwater. What those who have already studied it, look at this, and know the existing infrastructure recognize is that Elder Lane is the point of discharge for the majority of southeast Winnetka. The other point of discharge is at Willow Road. It's a much smaller pipe, and it doesn't have the same capacity, nor does the existing infrastructure. The existing infrastructure is not tributary to it. It goes to Elder. Through the work of Costa Catulus, Matt Wright, Red Barn Engineering, Spaceco Engineering, and Thomas Burke of Christopher Burke Engineering, all those parties on behalf of the Park District and for the village engineer James Bernal and their consulting engineer Strand have looked at this. And if you go back a year ago and look at we had 3 open houses, one in January, March, and again in April, and that stormwater reroute was discussed. In fact, we had a permit apply for it back in 2022. So I think we've identified the best route to collect the stormwater where it converges at the intersection of Elder and Sheridan and convey it there via a routing that affords the least impact on the existing mature trees and other infrastructure, and then it transits out the new proposed North Groin. What the village has identified is the need to verify that the pipe size is adequate. I have been party to some of the discussions internally, and I believe that that piece of information can easily be accommodated, recognizing that the route has already been optimized. So I think we're well on our way. We can likely have the Elder permit catch up, knowing that the construction activity for both of these projects would not occur until 2025. So I'm hopeful that both projects can be completed simultaneously, even though the permitting process may occur in series rather than parallel.
Thank you. Thank you for that summary. Would anyone else like to make any comments?
Regarding the stormwater, I would really like to see studies. Like I have seen the one from 2012. I know that we've talked about, the capacities. I know that when we were going through the redo, we had a lot of discussion about how the big pipe that goes under the pier is larger and is able to handle a greater volume than the 2 smaller pipes in the breakwater, for example. But I feel like there has been
Can I answer?
Yeah,
the village is out for RFP. They've already issued an RFP for that study. That is the reason why we're waiting till July, so that they can conduct and complete the study of Southeast Winnetka. So once we have that information, we can accommodate it into our plans. This isn't our stormwater. This isn't our storm sewer system. It's the village's. We just have the land area and have accommodated the route, the conveyance, and the IGA, purpose of the IGA. Right now, we have an easement smack dab down the Elder extension. We would have to enter into an IGA that accommodates the new route and the new discharge.
Yeah, the study is theirs, is the village's to conduct.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it seems like it would be who us to determine a path, though, when we have that information from the village.
It's their choice, it's their choice, it's their planning option, it's their stormwater discharge, it's their route. So their Southeast Winnetka Stormwater Survey will produce those results for them. But they're in the process of selecting someone to conduct that study, and they believe that they should be awarding that perhaps in April. And then that study will be theirs and will be conducted and will produce those results.
But our plan of do we have the pier or do we just have the breakwater is dependent on those results.
Correct.
Yeah.
Absolutely correct.
So, I had a question for Adam in terms of the different processes for the elder plan submission. Under the, I guess, the IGA only option, are all those discussions by our board something that would be dictated in open session or a closed session based on the parameters of this project?
I'm going to try and clarify.
Okay.
When you say the IGA only route, do you mean the discussions between a park district committee and a village committee negotiating that agreement? Or I misunderstand you?
It could apply to that. It could also apply to the park district board discussing the IGA terms as well.
I mean, the park district board will discuss it publicly, obviously, because we have to approve it during an open session, so it's going to be subject to public debate and review. The manner of negotiating that type of agreement, to clarify that it wasn't the direction we got 2 weeks ago, but the manner of negotiating that agreement is subject to a meeting of the minds with the village. It could be done openly, it could be done in any manner, it could be done however the two parties agree to do it. It could, but, so that's an open question.
The outline that was presented from the village was they have a negotiating team of 2 people. We have our executive director, they have their village manager, and we have a negotiating team of 2 people. And the consensus, I'm now concerned about using that word because I felt we had one when we didn't, but I think people were concerned about the lack of transparency. And I think our board has been criticized for lack of transparency consequently. And I don't want to put words in anyone else's mouth, but it was deemed as a less appealing alternative for us, simply for reasons of transparency. This IGA that we're talking about now is solely for the stormwater piece at Elder. And we can make the motion and authorize the same negotiating team to conduct that narrow scope IGA. And when their study is complete, then we will get, this negotiating team will get its marching orders to go into those negotiations. And again, that would be a team of 2, an executive director and village manager.
So I guess my question is, why would we feel urgency to do that now and not when we have the study?
Can I answer that?
Sure.
All right, trying to summarize what I said previously. The stormwater conveyance systems converge at Elder and Sheridan underneath that intersection. A 4-foot diameter pipe, a 3-foot diameter pipe, a 54-inch diameter pipe, they all meet there. And then they get squeezed into a 27-inch diameter pipe and a 36-inch diameter pipe. They run across Elder, down the bluff, out underneath the pier. We're talking, what we had in previous discussions with the village was a plan that intercepted it near the intersection, conveyed it through Elder Park away from the trees, and then dropped it down and went through the bluff in a using boring, so we didn't have to open cut the bluff. So all of that had been discussed at great length. We've done engineering studies behind that, so all that planning is still in place. The only issue that the village has said is they don't know what the pipe size is. Their study may reveal something different, but what isn't going to change is the 300 acres of Winnetka that drains to that point and needs to be discharged into the lake. What we're trying to do, and what the village has told us, is that they do in fact want to replace that pipe and remove the pier. And I am in full support of that decision, knowing that one of those storm sewer elements is upwards of 100 years old and the other is 75 years old. And the pier was constructed in 1947, and we've seen chunks of steel falling off that pipe. I'm in full agreement. It's the right thing to do to remove the pier and replace it. And as I said, we can process the design elements and accommodate the village's need within Elder, utilizing the new proposed outfall location. So, am I making sense? It's just the size of the pipe, not the route.
Are you asking the question of why we're talking about a negotiating team
No.
for a stormwater IGA today? I think the answer is we're going to have that conversation sometime, and it's on the agenda today.
And the other answer is that it's not a process that's going to happen overnight either. So if we begin to negotiate just the stormwater piece, it's going to take some time to determine the elements and the placement. And as the additional pieces of information come in, those will be folded into the negotiations. But it's a way to collaborate with the village, which I think is,
We have two prior examples.
yeah.
Crow
Sorry,
Island
Colleen,
and
your
the
hand
golf
up for
course.
a while. Yeah.
If I may, as you know, Warren, you and I have talked a lot about stormwater at Elder and whether, capacity of pipes in the past and terminating in a breakwater or extending it beyond the breakwater. I guess my thoughts on this, you just said it, when you said that the new study may reveal some different elements. And so I'm questioning the timing here, as Commissioner Rapp did, because we're going to be in June pretty darn quick. I mean, we're talking just a few months. I don't know why the urgency here to start these negotiations. I'm also curious, I look at Willow and I watch stormwater wash down into the bluff at Willow. I'm wondering, whether this new study may also suggest an expansion of capacity at Willow so that not everything's going into Elder. I guess where I am on this, is there a need perhaps to divert more stormwater onto Centennial? Who knows? That's what they're going to be looking at, as I understood. So I'm questioning timing here. I think we need to let the village do their study, and then we can revisit this issue, because we may have additional elements that you may want to discuss with them. As I said during the last meeting, I have no problem with a very limited IGA with respect to East Winnetka stormwater, and as it may affect either Elder and or Centennial. I have a problem with that. I just think you've got the cart before the horse here. Let the village do the work.
Commissioners, if I could provide some clarification. So in regards to the village's stance, they are looking only at Elder. There has never been any discussion of moving any stormwater to Centennial. So it would stay at Elder, and that's everything that we have heard up until this point. I don't think that would change, because that is the best location from our perspective and from the village's perspective for that outfall. And I think from looking at the conversation of the stormwater IGA, it's not a point of do we start conversations now or 2 months from now. It's is this something that the board wants to do at all? And from my understanding, and maybe Adam can pipe in too on this one, is that I believe that an IGA for the stormwater is, I don't know if it's a requirement, but it is something that it really is expected for that portion if we want to collaborate with the village on their study, construction timelines, ensuring, financial responsibilities, who's responsible for paying for what. So it will be a conversation on that project that is likely going to take a decent amount of time. And I do think having, knowing which direction that the board wants to go with that is something that we can give back to the village as far as a direction, so we can move forward in knowing the direction that is going to be.
Yeah,
That's helpful. Yeah. Go ahead.
Unless nothing changes at all, and that's very small likelihood. Unless nothing changes at all, there does need to be an IGA between the village and the park district. I just want to add another point. Besides for the routing of the stormwater, there also have been discussions by the village about water quality from that stormwater, and that might be something they need to address in the proximity of that confluence of all those storm pipes. So that will be part of the study as well. But unless there's no change at all to the existing infrastructure, there does need to be an IGA, because there'll be a relocation of the pipe across park property, there will be park contributions to it, there has to be collaboration.
The only other practical matter that I wanted to address is that we did attempt to meet with the village, since we have attempted to meet with the village, and just the practical matching up of schedules of 6 people made March 4th the first date after requests that were initiated in October. And it's no one's fault, it's simply how it unfolded as we matched schedules, added a new executive director. Some people were traveling, inserted the holidays, etc. So as a practical matter, I just want to make sure we have enough runway to correctly prepare. That's all. Anything else? Or you can say something.
So just to clarify, the IGA that we're talking about is a non-chapter 17.76 IGA at this point.
That's my understanding. It's based on whatever the motion is, so it's not my control, but my understanding of the intent is that the scope of the IGA is literally only related to stormwater and is not intended to bypass the regular zoning process.
Any other comments? Colleen, did you?
Well, I was going to ask that question. I have my chapter here, and I just want to reiterate your comment that Elder has been our most contaminated beach. And so I was hopeful that in this study, they were also going to look into that. And if we're going to spend millions of dollars on Elder with a beautiful new beach, we want to make sure, and it's a swimming beach, we want to make sure it's open and people can actually use it. Because in the past, that was not the case at Elder. We had to close it.
It's part of their discussion.
Yeah, correct.
Let's recognize 2 things. First, that the village corrected upwards of 65 illegal cross connections a decade ago. That addressed and dropped the beach closure rate substantially. That's the first thing to note. The second thing to note is that as long as there's stormwater discharging in that area, there will be beach closures. It occurs virtually all the time. We have heavy rain in the vicinity of other discharges. Look at when Wilmette opens the locks. It's the same situation. So there will be beach closures in the vicinity of Elder, likely with a higher frequency than other beaches because of the volume of stormwater that's discharging.
The hope would be that the pipes would go out far enough so it would diffuse contamination. That would be the hope.
Agreed. That is part and parcel of the design that extends that breakwater some 219 feet out, another 50 feet further than it is today, and further to the north, away from the Centennial swimming area.
We're just going to refine the language of the potential motion and see how we would like to consider it and go forward. Just want to make sure that Adam's in agreement with what we've jotted down. Perfect. So may I have a motion for the committee of President Cotto and Commissioner Lawson, along with the Executive Director Nizal, to work with the village on an IGA specifically for the stormwater portion of Elder Lane Beach?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
That's a roll call.
May I make a motion to amend your motion?
Sure.
And again, terrible at articulating, but I want to make it very clear that this IGA is not in accordance with chapter 17.76 of the village ordinances, so that we are specifically saying that, so that we're not going to have some sort of mutation with respect to that. And I'll look to council to help me word that.
Who is the movement? Who made the motion?
Commissioner Hemmings made the motion.
Hemmings.
Do you accept that?
I'm fine with that suggestion.
Jeff?
Yes.
So amended.
Thank you, as amended. Okay. Would you like me to read it again?
Yes.
Okay. May I have a motion for the Committee of President Coto and Commissioner Lesson, along with Executive Director Nizal, work with the village on an IGA specifically for the stormwater portion of Elder Lane Beach. This IGA would not be necessarily authorized or in accordance with Village Code, Chapter 1776 of the Winnetka Village Code.
I don't like the word necessarily.
I don't like necessarily.
Would not.
Sorry.
Would not.
Okay, would not. Okay, this IGA is not intended.
Will not. Will not.
Will not.
Will
Thank
not.
you. I'm looking to the lawyers in the room for the correct language.
Will not.
Will not be authorized by Chapter 1776 of the Winnetka Village Code. Thank you. Okay, perfect.
I'll accept that.
Thank you.
Would you like a roll call?
Village has been.
Commissioner Root?
I'm gonna say no. I think timing is wrong here.
Commissioner Tyson?
Yes.
Commissioner Lesson?
Yes.
Commissioner Hemmings?
Yes.
Commissioner James?
Yes.
Commissioner Rapp?
Yes.
Commissioner Koto?
Yes.
That motion passes.
Thank you. Elder and Centennial Park and Beach Update, Costa.
Bear with me 1 second, I apologize. Doing a little double duty tonight. All right. Christina, thank you. As discussed previously, tonight, wanted to bring back the revisions that were discussed previously at the March 7th. From that meeting, the Park District staff heard a few corrections based on comments from commissioners and what is being presented this evening at the Park Board meeting here on the 21st. There are some changed plan revisions to that. I'm not going to read the memorandum verbatim. I was going to dive directly into the illustration if the board would like. We could talk through those changes. There's an overlay that was created to be able to show those illustrative changes to the Park Board this evening, so then we can review and discuss those items accordingly. So what we have on the screen here, apologize, let me try to zoom this up a little bit.
A little bit.
So,
If you can.
sure, hang on. I'll just go this way instead.
Thank you.
All right. I'm going to go directly to the overlay. I think that's going to be the most the easiest way to be very specific with the design changes. We'll work from south to north here. There was a comment that was brought up on March 7th in regards to the overlook seating node and its proximity to the potential property exchange limit of 70 feet for the south end of Centennial Park. Based on that comment, staff did take a look at that. We went ahead and flipped that, if you will, kind of moved it on the line of symmetry to the north, keeping the twin benches that we had there overlooking perpendicular to the shoreline directly east to the lake. So you had that seating overlook and what was intended to be as a more passive overlook space for community members to enjoy views and vistas of the lake. From there, the other concern that we heard was the proximity and how close we were with the previous grade slope, and that was a discussion that we had as part of the design team to take in consideration. Previously, the design slope as presented on March 7th was a design slope of 8.3% of the slope, nearing the maximum limit of the ADA walkway and what would be allowed. Taking into consideration time and settling different things of the project that could be, during installation, we'll be diligent, but playing it that close to the cuff, we decided to pull that back to less than 8%, 8% being our standard for that. So we pulled it back to about a 7.9 in this rendering. To do so, that changed the location slightly. Looking on the south side, or the right side of the screen as it's presented here, the western retaining wall, if you can see where the cursor is lying through here, that wall did increase in height about 1/2 foot from previous. We already will need to go for an exemption based on the zoning requirements for the steep slope bluff ordinance. So increasing that to another 1/2 foot is not detrimental to the project, or is it to the design itself. The northern wall stayed about the same for the most part. There was a slight increase, once again, within 1/2 foot of where it was previous. You'll note that the staircase location did shift to the north, because as we're coming up now, the grade had changed where the walkway is a little bit lower as it walks through. So the design change as it was pushed to the north allowed that alignment to happen where it would come in contact with the new proposed accessible walkway. In turn, to the west of that location, here where my cursor is set, the walkway that was configured before to the mid-bluff passive area where there was benching, along with the connection point here of an outcropping stone step stairway from the upper park tableland walkway, was elongated to again adapt to that slope change. So that was a grade change that was made throughout there. As we look to the north and as we continue up, we elongated, I believe it was 18 feet, hold on a second here, 19 feet, I apologize, to the north as it relates to the overall length of the walkway, not the distance north of the previous walkway, but the overall length of it that is now included. It got lengthened by 19 feet. Taking into consideration from the original plan, that still is a reduction of 62.5 total feet of sidewalk, or in this case, walkway that has came out. In addition to that, the removal of the outcropping stones that were set to the north, as well as the preservation of a lot of the pine trees and so forth that were in the mid-bluff area that had to be removed previously. Those are back in play. There is a tulip tree that is in this location here, that with the grading and the location of the sidewalk will directly be affected by this now. Unfortunately, that will need to come out as part of this plan design, but considering what we saved to the previous plan, we're willing to look to that and make that compromise here. There was a question in regards to the cost. Right now, it's been done as an engineering estimate of about $5,000 increase in cost based on this current design of where we're showing. Taking into consideration with the overall project cost, we consider that basically a push at this time based on the numbers and the engineering outlook that we have currently. As that dwindles down and we drop contingency off, that number I'm sure will get tighter, but that's where we're holding right now, is a $5,000 increase over the previous design. So be able to salvage the trees, more green space to the north, and including the seating node. I think there's some design elements that work well with this plan to take into consideration the loss and the increased cost of $5,000. It's staff's recommendation to move forward with this design as our change from the original design as approved from the October 19th Park Board meeting of 2023, and move forward with this design that's being shown here tonight. Once again, the purple magenta is the overlay, and what is shown here is the actual finished design that staff would be looking for authority to move with. I'd like to, at this point, open up to any questions that the board might have. I'd like to answer those for you here this evening.
I'm trying to visualize this retaining wall, and if at one point it appeared there was like a 7-foot retaining wall?
This point right here, yes. It maxes at 7 feet, tapering down 5 to 4.5, and then tapering to 1.5 feet as you continually walk up.
So as someone is starting on the path, I'm looking at a retaining wall that is how high?
When you're starting on the path from this location on the north side where the letter G is, you're going to have no retaining wall to the right. You're going to have 3/4 of a foot, about 8 inches to your left.
Okay.
As you continue down in this location, right now it's observed at about 3.8, But mind you, that retaining wall is not a vertical wall. That is the retaining wall down to hold the earth back to create the slope, or in this case, the backfill that's needed to create the walkway itself.
So you're looking out
Physically,
over
you're not going to see any
the top of the wall
pyramids
easily.
or visual blocking. It's going to be the curve elevation is what you're going to see. So you're not going to see any blocking there.
It's not my worry.
I'm just walking through the
Okay,
entire, just
okay.
to be very
I'll
specific.
share what the worry is.
Yep. So as you continue through here now, this is the point where you're going to start having a retaining wall on your western side or the right as you proceed down to the south. At this location here, you're at 1.5 feet, moving to 3.6 inches, 5.8 feet, 7 feet in this location, then tapering back down to 5 foot, 5 foot, finishing out at 4.5 feet. So the western wall here will be integrated into the bluff, so this is where you'll see the physical boundary of the wall. We are talking about different finishes to help clean that up, make it more subtle, make it more of a feature, if you will, but that is where the retaining wall is. On the top of that wall, there will be a fence line, as the fence is shown through here. That fence will continue coming all the way back to this point here, where the transition of the wall would stop, and then this would be flat earth for the grading, where that would continue into the the proposed walkway. So there would be fencing and a barrier in this location, all the way through up as it continues to the south as it exists today. But this would be the change of that location, where that is cut into the slope and it's put together.
So I don't need to, as this is the closest park to New Trier High School, I don't need to worry about skateboarders getting up on that wall, because, I just see that as a wonderful, they're going to have a wonderful time, just go, and going off a 7-foot wall into concrete.
The way you're describing it, skateboarders grinding on the wall in that instance, there's going to be the fencing on top of that, there's a handrail included with that. Their ability to take on that said function will not be able, they physically won't be able to do it.
Thank you.
So
That was
address that
certainly a
concern.
concern. And my second question is, I knew that our neighbor to the south has always wanted a passive zone. We had an ancillary agreement where we talked about a passive zone. So with this new design, we keep seeming to migrate further to the north. And I'm kind of curious as to whether, if we elongated this path a bit more, we could have reduced the steepness of the slope. So it appears that we are preserving a passive zone over here in the likelihood that our exchange agreement suddenly wakes up from its dormancy. And so my question is, are you reviewing these designs, or are your consultants in discussions with the technical team and consultants for the neighbor to the south?
Sure.
To look, and so are they submitting their suggestions to you?
There has been zero dialogue as it relates to this design with anybody that works or is part of the 205 project or Justin Ishbia. This design is wholeheartedly been designed by the in-house team that the Park District Board knows and is representing us, and there's been no dialogue back and forth as it relates to that. There will need to be consideration. I would say the last time there was consideration of our plan was as it was amended and shown as part of the donation agreement. The items that are on the donation agreement, I believe there was 5 in total, if memory serves. The different functions of those are the last review based on the plan set that was adopted as part of that donation. That would have been the last review, other than them seeing it through the packet like the general public.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments as it relates to the design changes that were made based from the discussion from March 7th to this evening as it relates to the ADA walkway?
I think giving ourselves a margin for settling and construction tolerances is smart. Thank you, Warren, for catching that. Thank you, Costa, for catching that. I feel a lot more comfortable that even if there is a minor settling, we won't have deviation from a good, robust ADA experience. Secondly, I like this versus the original plan because of the reduction in impermeable surface and the reduction in length, and I think it's a better fit to the bluff and a lighter insult to the green space. So I like it. for $5,000. I like it. Yeah.
Just want to reiterate that the principle here is universal design. Regardless of your ability, you can utilize this path. That is one of the guiding principles. Universal design is recognized as the ideal. We're not trying to make just an accommodation or single people out. What we have at Elder requires somebody to call ahead, open a gate, drive a car down a steep slope, one parking spot. This can be used by somebody walking, somebody in a stroller, somebody in a walker, somebody in a wheelchair. It's universal. Doesn't create additional barriers. It's also been designed to accommodate a gurney, a skid steer, and other elements to get down to the beach. So I'm very pleased with the design.
May I ask one other question? Do you know how much this ADA pathway is proposed to cost?
Right off the top of my head, I do not, but I can circle back with that information to the entire board.
I think that would be good to have, and I'm not talking about the boardwalk, I'm talking about
Just the path itself.
the steel and cement path.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Any other discussion or questions? Yes.
Will there be any further renderings on the top part where the wall is very high?
When you say the wall is high in this location?
I'm having a hard time, like what barriers are there to prevent kids from jumping down off the wall?
There's a fence at the top of the wall.
So is that blocking views then?
No different than it is today.
Less so, because it'll be lower.
So the topography that you see through here and the walkway that was previously located in this, the walkway basically followed off of this curve about 18 inches, 2 feet, just inside to the west. So if you're standing on here, the existing fence as it's shown to date here and as it exists to date out in the field, that's not going to change. The elevation of the fencing through here is the only element that's going to change. And the way that it's cut in, as Warren suggested, the elevation of that height fencing might change as the grade comes back through of where it's being pulled into the west. But visually blocking it, the fence design is very similar to the fence that we have here at the Skokie Playfield, or if you've been out on site, you've seen the fence there and at Centennial, at Elder as well. It's the same design. It's a metal wrought iron type of fencing that is 4 foot height, circle rail on the top, a few discussions at the ends of the post, and then a 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch vertical picket through there that is very opaque, and you're able to see
Transparent.
through it.
Transparent.
Transparent. Sorry, I said opaque, you're correct. But yes, so there's going to be no visual block. And once again, this wall height is from the ground elevation down. So it's not going to be a visual impairment as you're looking. It's going to be at your feet and below. So you're going to have no obstruction in your view path as you look out towards the lake from any of the levels. Whether it's upper parkland, if you're standing on the walkway here at the tableland, if you're enjoying this node, or even standing in the grass area over here looking out, there's no visual impairment looking out. There would be none.
Okay. I'm having a hard time.
With the exception
I'm
of
having
the fence.
visual impairment on seeing the visual in my mind for this, but.
Any other questions or comments? Oh, Warren?
I'd love to see these exhibits plus the renderings promoted on our website so that we can, so they're readily linked, easily identifiable. We do have some nice 3D renderings that demonstrate the intent here and will help you visualize.
Perfect.
This is a recommendation for a motion for approval.
I just have one other small question. The dog wash. Like, have we lost it in this picture, or has it moved, or is?
The dog wash, as we discussed previously, was always relocated to beach level right inside of the dog park itself. So we're in
Okay.
the dog fenced in off leash, on leash, leashing area, if you will. This location is the designated zone for that.
Okay. So it's still in the plan, it's just not in this picture?
It's still the plan that is currently being finalized in regard to the electrical support for the gate and what's needed, the plumbing support for the actual fountain, we're looking at replacing the most dependable fountain that we have out there currently. Once again, trying to make sure that our design drawings for construction are 100%. But yes, that element is not lost and will continue to be part of the plan as it was from day one.
Can I ask one final question? As we're looking at this plan, is there any intent to put some sort of restroom facility? You know, I see these people with their electric wheelchairs, you know, finally getting down to the beach, and then there's no facility.
The intent behind this plan is to be able to complete the property exchange or acquire 261, continue the boardwalk, and gain access to the Elderlink Beach House for facilities. The master plan itself did have other, had abilities to grow with that.
Yeah.
But what we've been approved as far as park design and where staff has been given direction, this is it. As this develops, as I suggested to phase 3, as you might recall once upon a time, the interconnection of that, the continuous loop between the two sites, the 1,000-foot linear beach, as well as access to those restrooms comes to light.
Subject to, one other, do we have a construction easement yet across 261?
We do not have anything in pen. There's been discussion amongst staff and consultants that they're in support of that, but nothing has been officially penned.
Thank you.
So.
May I have a motion to approve the revisions as presented for Centennial Park?
So moved.
Second.
Any additional discussion? This is actually listed as a voice vote, but I would like to do a roll call vote if you don't mind, Denise.
Commissioner Tyson?
Yes.
Commissioner Lesson?
Yes.
Commissioner Hemmings?
Yes.
Commissioner James?
Yes.
Commissioner Rapp?
I'm gonna abstain because I can't get the measurement of the height of the fence.
And Commissioner Root?
I wouldn't ruin my record, I've got to vote no.
That motion passes. Oh, wait, Commissioner Cotto?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, that motion passes. Sorry.
Okay.
Commissioner Root, what's your record that you're referencing?
The design on Centennial, I feel like, well, I don't need to go into my prior comments, I've spoken. Happy to talk to you offline.
I didn't understand
okay?
the reference, thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
It doesn't result in a change in the roll, but the abstention will go with the majority on that.
Item number 4.5, the policy manual, section 4.27 and 4.28, draft policy update. This is Shannon and Adam.
Okay, so we are returning with this item. We last discussed it on March 7th at the Committee of the Whole meeting in regards to sections 4.27 and 4.28 of the Board Policy Manual. And based on the comments that we had during that meeting, we have adjusted some items in those potential changes to address those. And we have provided a resolution 2024-03-21-01 to update sections 4.27 and 4.28 of the policy manual, and I'll answer any questions that the board may have.
I move to approve the resolution as proposed.
Okay. That was my, may I have a motion to adopt resolution 2024-3-21-1, updating sections 4.27 and 4.28 of the policy manual?
So moved.
Excellent.
Second.
Excellent. No discussion?
I would like to make a motion to amend section 4.27 under item 8, where it says consent agenda, which may include but is not limited to approval of financials, approval of vouchers. I would like to amend that to say which shall include approval of minutes, approval of financials, and approval of vouchers, and may include additional items. I think really at every regular board meeting, we should be approving minutes and financials and vouchers. So I think that is
But what you're doing by changing it from may to shall is forcing it into the consent agenda, as opposed to letting it be fluid, whether it's a separate standalone item or in the consent agenda.
But then any single commissioner can move it under the later parts of the policy.
I think what she's saying is that there might be times where the director in setting the agenda might not want to put it in the consent agenda in the first place.
Correct.
So how do we ensure language-wise that at every, like,
I mean,
we had a big loophole with the word shall versus may, and at every regular board meeting, we should have minutes, financials, and vouchers.
I believe that's already.
We can't read this in a vacuum. By operation of law, we're compelled to routinely approve our minutes. And so this is only describing the agenda. It doesn't describe all of our legal obligations. It just describes how we're organizing our order of business in the meeting. It doesn't mean that we're excused from not doing things that aren't listed here. And so the Open Meetings Act says we have to approve our minutes so often. So we will be approving the minutes, whether or not it's listed in the policy manual, it has to happen.
And the policy manual also indicates in another section in regards to the financials and vouchers as being required to be approved. So that's in there as a requirement, not necessarily where in the agenda that it falls.
May gives you the flexibility to put them in or to make them as separate agenda items.
Put them on the
Because
consent
they
agenda.
could
Yes.
be in
It will always be
consent.
on the agenda.
Always be on the
It's just a
agenda.
question whether it's consent or discussed individually.
Correct.
Or under new business or unfinished business.
Correct.
One of the other items that are on the list.
It's not what it says in this section, though. It's all may.
It's not
I mean-
required to be in that section in order for us to actually talk about it. That's what Mr. Simon just told us.
Okay, I would encourage everyone to then review the section on the minutes to make sure that we're fully in line with it.
Okay, so we have a second, we have some discussion. Again, I'd like to take
Sorry,
this to a
was there
vote.
a second on Commissioner Rapp's motion?
Oh,
I'm going to second her motion, and again, my concern is that there is not some effort at some point to remove financials and vouchers. I guess I would have appreciated perhaps that section of the policy manual being available that says that, you know, we've got a duty to review those. I believe we do.
We do.
I believe we do, but it would be nice to see that right now. I'm sorry, I don't have a laptop tonight. But again, can't we put a little asterisk that says that notwithstanding, you know, this language, nothing.
we have her motion, we have your second. I'd like to take a roll call vote on that, just for clarity.
On the amendment?
On the
Clarify the
amendment.
amendment one last
Yes.
time.
Cynthia, do you want to clarify the amendment?
Which shall include approval of minutes, approval of financials, approval of vouchers, and may include additional items.
Okay. Is everybody looking at what the content of our board packet is? Can you scroll down to that on the screen so people at home can follow? It's under 4.27, order of business. And I understand what Cynthia is saying, and that in the paren it says which may include, but is not limited to approval of financials, approval of vouchers. And I believe what you're pointing out is that we may include that in the consent agenda was the intent, but we shall include it on the agenda someplace, is what you're saying.
So yes, I mean, if it's not specifically in the consent, I mean, at every regular board meeting, we should be doing those three things.
Yes, and I think that this could be clarified, that in every meeting, we shall approve financials and vouchers, and they may be included in the consent
You're good.
agenda. Adam?
As the director pointed out, each individual policy shouldn't be read in a vacuum. There's the entire policy manual. 7.13 talks about the fact that the bill list will be presented to the park board on a monthly basis. including the vouchers. So there are other policies in the policy manual that compel us to present the vouchers for approval. The Open Meetings Act compels us to review the minutes regularly and approve them. This section that's being amended only describes the order of business. It doesn't limit the things that need to be approved by the board. It just describes the order of business of the meeting.
I understand what Cynthia's saying, because when you look at it on the screen, if you were to take that as amended, as proposed amended, it could be construed as you know, it might include the approval of financials and vouchers. It's wordsmithing, I get it.
But that, no. But that's not the point. The point is that this has to do with the order of business, not the content that's required of us to speak about in the meetings.
Okay. Great.
Okay. Are we ready to take a roll call vote on the amendment?
Commissioner Lesson?
Yes.
Commissioner
No, wait, we're taking a vote on the amendment to change the word may to shall?
Correct.
Yes.
Commissioner Hemmings?
No.
Commissioner James?
No.
Commissioner Rapp?
Yes.
Commissioner Root?
Yes.
Commissioner Tyson?
No.
Commissioner Koto?
No.
That motion fails.
Okay, so the amendment is not adopted. Now, may I have a motion to adopt resolution
There are
20?
reasons on the floor.
Say it again?
There are.
Okay,
motion.
perfect, okay.
Primary motion.
And that primary motion, I would like to do by a roll call vote also.
Commissioner Hemmings?
Yes.
Commissioner James?
Yes.
Commissioner Rapp?
No.
Commissioner Root?
No.
Commissioner Tyson?
Yes.
Commissioner Lesson?
Yes.
Commissioner Koto?
Yes.
That motion passes.
Thank you. Policy, item 4.6, policy retirement healthcare funding plan.
Yes, so during the March 7 Committee of the Whole, there was discussion on including a retirement healthcare funding plan to the personnel policy manual as a benefit for staff. At that meeting, additional documentation was requested. So a copy of the trust document, a prototype document, and IRS private letter ruling have also been included along with the policy for review. So open for questions and further discussion.
Any other questions? Fine. May I have a motion to
Wait,
adopt?
one
Sorry,
question.
sorry.
This is for the benefit of discussion that I had earlier this week with a fellow commissioner. I just want to clarify that after the initial establishment of the plan, new employees coming in will be subject and required to participate in the plan and may not opt out. Is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify that point.
May I have, that's an IRS rule.
May I have a motion to adopt resolution 2024-3-21-3, a resolution to add section 7.16 to the personnel policy manual?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? This is a voice vote? Sorry, go ahead. Yes.
And if I understand correctly, are we looking at the additional taxpayer contribution?
That's a second resolution.
Or is that a second? This is the first
Second,
one,
yeah.
simply adopting
Correct.
and letting, thank you so much for
The
the
match is
clarity.
separate.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Opposed? Excellent, that was unanimous. May I have a motion to approve a contribution match from the Winnetka Park District of $25 per person per payroll and not to exceed $650 per calendar year to participating employees in the retirement healthcare funding plan?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Yes.
I would just like to point out that the village does offer a retirement health savings plan similar, I think it's under the Mission Square program, which is not the one that we're more likely to use. The they offer it to both the firefighters who are subject to the collective bargaining agreement and also the police, but both of those plans are offered at zero cost to the village. The firefighters, it appears, contribute 2.5% of salary plus sick time plus some other time. But again, it is at zero cost to the village for those plans to be offered, and it is a small set of employees, partial set of their employees.
I would only add that we had a president's meeting and Keith Drummond just completed their collective bargaining effort with the physical plant services people. And they are matching between, he wasn't quite sure, between 500 and 1,000 per employee, because those employees are very valuable for them and very difficult to replace. So, anybody else?
Beth, what did you estimate from a modeling perspective to be the maximum contribution from taxpayers for the plan?
20, I guess I don't understand the question. So we're
$25
asking
per
for,
pay period, so if you maximize every employee,
oh, there's 31 full-time employees,
and how many pay periods per year?
26.
So what does that come out to?
20,000.
650 times 31.
Yeah, no, I know the math, I'm just trying to get to the number. Not as good as that as you.
My recollection was somewhere around 21,000 per year was the max contribution.
And I do already know there are employees who have chosen to opt out.
Yeah.
So again, it's maximum $21,000
$20,100.
to our, what I conceive to be their most valuable employees, ancillary benefit that helps them towards retirement.
Correct.
Thank you.
This is a roll call.
Commissioner James,
Yes.
Commissioner Rapp,
No.
Commissioner Root,
No.
Commissioner Tyson,
Yes.
Commissioner Lesson,
Yes.
Commissioner Hemmings,
Yes.
Commissioner Kodo.
Yes.
That motion passes.
New business item number 5, Blood Donation Leave Act. Beth.
Yes, so the state of Illinois has amended their blood donation leave act to include organ donation, paid organ donation. So I'm recommending the board adopt the resolution updating section 9.12 of the Personnel Policy Manual.
May I have a motion to adopt Resolution 2024-3-21-2, a resolution updating Section 9.12 of the Personnel Policy Manual?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. Discussion?
So FYI, there is a House bill to include part-time people. It has not passed or moved from the House, but just so you know, this might be coming back to include part-time people.
Do they suspect this is the reason people don't volunteer more?
They don't say. I think it just might be, you can be out for a period of time to donate, to save someone's life. It could be a family member or someone else, and so ensuring some protection at work to do that is probably a nice thing.
This is a voice vote, so since we have a motion and a second, correct?
Yep.
We do. May I have all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That is unanimous. Item 5.2, amending financial policies of the Winnetka Park District. Costa.
Christina, thank you. You might recall a few meetings ago at a high level, mentioned previously that staff would be looking to come back to make an adjustment to the policy manual for our bid threshold to match it with the current state threshold. As is being proposed in front of you this evening, Park District staff, along with review from Adam Simon, counsel for the Park District, is proposing Resolution 24-03-21-04 to amend the Park District Policy Manual, Section 7.14, Procedures and Purchasing Section, as well as Section 7.15, Legal Competitive Bidding Procedures. The reason that we're looking to amend this is to give staff the ability to work within a higher means to contract for smaller capital projects. Our current bid threshold is $25,000. We're asking for for the threshold to be moved to $30,000, but in turn, not only be moved to $30,000, but match the state's statute on the bid threshold. So in the future, if the state does go ahead and move forward on that threshold included, to upgrade that, or to increase that to say 35,000 or whatever X might be, we are looking to be able to follow suit with that. I've had a chance to review this topic with 9 neighboring agencies. They all of them have completed this back in 2022 when this had come through the governor when it was approved, and they all follow suit where they moved their thresholds to meet the lowest the state statute for bid requirements. So that is 7.14 as it relates to the bidding requirements. Is there any questions as it relates to that first piece before I talk about the bid limit, or excuse me, the statute for public bonding?
Go right ahead. Oh, sorry.
I had, just for our current projects, are there any current projects that we've received quotes from between 25 and 30,000 that when we make this policy change, we'll actually be automatically approving?
No.
Public bonding.
All right. So as kind of introed a little bit, we are also talking about section 7.15, legal competitive bidding procedures. One of the other things that came into the state requirements and was amended in 2024, just earlier this year, was the Public Construction Bond Act, which increased the required limit for bonding a project from the $50,000 threshold and increased it up to $150,000 threshold. The reason was that for the performance bonds to require on construction projects, this is to allow for smaller projects to be completed without the requirement of a performance bond. We can choose independently if there's a project that we so choose that we feel that we should have a performance bond on, we can include that. But basically this gives us the ability to move that threshold up and save a few $1,000s on these projects that are, I don't want to say no-brainers, but it makes more sense where a performance bond isn't necessarily required. So that could be, a couple $1,000s between $2,000 to $5,000 that's saving and being put into the project or back into the park district's budget to allow for other uses towards the community. So that's basically a quick overview. Adam, if there's anything I've missed, feel free to elaborate.
No, I agree. It's designed to help local governments save cost on small capital projects. If there is any interest in what the exceptions would be, if we would voluntarily request a bond for smaller projects, it would be one where there's a lot of different subs, where the bond is there to help protect and guarantee the payment of those subs. But if it's a small project and there's just 1 or 2 contractors and there's not that concern, we'll just comply with the law and not require it and not have that cost. The cost is usually just passed through to us and it just adds to our expense.
Okay, great. May I have a motion to adopt, is the motion on the floor?
No.
Okay, may I have a motion to adopt resolution 2024-3-21-4, a resolution amending sections 7.14, 7.15, and 7.20 of the Winnetka Park District's policy manual?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
I have a question. Again, I fully support this proposal. In looking at section 7.14, what I noticed was absent that I saw in many other similar sections in other park districts was a strict prohibition on stringing so that you can't segment purchases to circumvent. And I was going to suggest that we add language in the second paragraph of section 7.14 to include that, as long as we're making a change.
On page 188 of the board packet, it says no contract or order shall be split into parts so as to avoid the provisions of this policy. That's the stringing you're referring to.
Well, that says that, but that's somewhat ambiguous. And the other language that I see throughout many of these policy manuals is language that says stringing or segmenting a purchase to circumvent the bidding process or to reduce individual invoice totals to within the authority level of an employee is strictly prohibited. That's very clear. It lays it out. It's right there. And so I'm proposing that we include that language in our section 7.14.
Adam, do you have any comment on the clarity of the language? Because to me, it seems clear as written.
Can you point to where you were reading from again?
Page 188, under other items, the first item, and it says, no contract or order shall be split into parts so as to avoid the provisions of this policy.
Commissioner, what I could suggest is that we look at what language other districts are using in regards to that and come back on that particular item at a future meeting adopt this at this time, and then come back at a future meeting in regards to that, to make sure that we're looking at language that other park districts have to make sure that what we have is comprehensive.
I think that's a very reasonable suggestion. I'll email you the language that I pulled, so you have it.
The only other comment I'll add is this: bid straining is a felony.
Correct.
So that's a pretty strong incentive not to do it anyway.
Correct. Okay, so we have a motion, a second, and this is a...
I had
Oh, sorry.
other
Apologies.
potential amendment that I'll throw out there before making a motion, but we did have a situation where there was a lack of clarity on how this applies in cases where it's one of the exceptions for contracts for services. And I do think that we should be also adding language saying, contracts not required to be competitively bid in excess of the bid limit set by section, 8.1 of the Park District Code shall still require approval of the park board. So there's not an exemption for consulting contracts of, 40,000 when the limit is 30,000.
I'd like to think about that, so can we get that on writing and talk about that more fulsomely in another meeting?
Would you mind following the same path that Colleen is following, where we adopt this as is and we consider that language and Colleen's language as additional refinements to this policy?
I would like a date certain that will be that.
Are you suggesting that there's something in the policy that would authorize an
Contracts in
employee
excess of the limit.
to approve a contract in excess of $30,000 without board approval?
We previously had a situation where a consulting arrangement was approved for 30,000 when our limit was 25,000. So when we discussed it collectively, it seemed that this language in our current policy was ambiguous on that point. So if we are amending these sections, I think it's important to make sure that we get more clarity around that.
I don't argue with that, but I would say that the bidding requirements are separate than procurement authority. They're two different ideas. So I don't know if the procurement authority,
I don't think we have it clearly identified in another section. Like, this is the section that covers both.
Commissioners, I think that that's also something that we can look at for a future date to make sure that we have the correct direction going forward on that and bring it back to a future meeting. I don't know as far as what date that meeting would be, not knowing how much research would go into finding out that information of what you're looking for, but possibly, the committee of the whole for May, potentially, we'll shoot for.
Yeah, no, May will be fine.
Yeah, we can shoot for that, and we can inform the board if we run into struggles with that, and we'll make sure that our superintendent of finance is involved in that conversation as well. So.
Okay.
All right, this is a voice vote, but I would like to do a roll call.
Commissioner Rapp?
Yes.
Commissioner Root?
Yes.
Commissioner Tyson?
Yes.
Commissioner Lesson?
Yes.
Commissioner Hemmings?
Yes.
Commissioner James?
Yes.
Commissioner Koto?
Yes.
That motion passes.
Okay, item number 6, the executive director's report. Shannon.
Okay, well, everyone has the weekly status reports as attached to the agenda, as well as the legal expenses document, and I'll answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much. I know people in the public appreciate those. I've sent them to former commissioners, and they are thrilled. Thank you.
Staff do a great job on them.
Okay. Public comment. Item number 7. This is your opportunity to address the board on any issue. When called upon, come to the center position in front of the commissioners, stand at the podium, speak loudly or into the microphone, state your name for the record, and speak directly to the board. Per the Winnetka Park District's policy manual, all comments must be kept to 3 minutes. This is not a question and answer forum, so please do not expect an immediate response. If you prefer to share your comments in writing this evening, you may do so by leaving them with a member of the Park District staff. Do we have anyone who wishes to speak? Susie?
You're welcome.
Susie Shriver, Winnetka Park District resident. Thank you for your clarification of the updates in the Centennial Plan and the pathway. I had the opportunity in the past 4 days to walk it with someone who grew up in Winnetka and who is an ADA professor in charge of students at the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign, and is completely familiar with all the elevation changes on pathways and curves, etc. And also remembers many times being a Centennial and Elder herself. But she had some very definite concerns on change in elevations and what is appropriate for ADA. Warren, I think you were using universal, I wrote it down, but I don't remember it. The
Design, universal design.
Architectural design or something like that. But there are ADA components for elevation and curves, and I would strongly request that the Park District staff take a very clear look at that. And I know this person would be available, as with the University of Illinois School of Architecture, to provide some of that clarification, because it makes a difference when you're in a wheelchair or rather than just someone designing it based on a list of regulations that are in front of you on a printed page. Thank you.
Thank you, Susie. Any other public comment? Okay. Commissioner comments? We would ask each commissioner keep their comments to 3 minutes. I'll go around the circle. Eric?
None for me.
No comments for me?
No comments.
Cynthia?
I have a couple, but they're short. First, thank you for the communication about the work at Crow Island. I did drive by there. It is shocking, so it was helpful to have the communication ahead of time. Also, thank you to staff for preparing for the upcoming events. I do want to recognize that I noticed that the Winnetka Women's Club